Tonight we're making an uni lunchbox. Essentially it's rice, kimchi, some fish cakes. Today we're gonna change it up a little bit. We're gonna put some uni, some tobiko, fried quail egg, and we're gonna shake it up. Korea was pretty poor. It's a post-war, like right after war, so like the lunchbox would kind of be like how you decide if you're like rich. People like the rich kids would have like meat and protein, would have a fried egg. The poor kids would probably just have rice and kimchi. Your parents would pack you your lunch, and you'd put in your backpack, and you walk to school. It all shakes around in there, and you'd get this like mixed rice by the time you eat it at school. So it's like a very staple Korean dish, but this is kind of probably the ghetto version of that. I'm essentially American. I grew up eating Korean food, but I grew up here also eating the hot dogs, the hamburgers, the pizza. You can't take that out of me, but I do appreciate the traditions of Korean food, and I don't want to be not genuine in what I cook. But yeah, overall authenticity on any real ethnic cuisine, it's really overrated.
You hear the word tradition and you hear the word authentic over and over and over again, and I think that's the disservice. Look, if something's a mutated version or a bastardized version and it's delicious, who cares? But as outsiders, we tend to try to be the know-it-alls who really know about the real deal and the authentic, when, from my experience, typically people don't know.
Everything that you hear, that you read, that you see, it's a combination of life experiences on a daily basis that one way or the other make it into the food that we make at the restaurant or the food that I make for people. So the dish that I'm going to be cooking tonight, it's a pumpkin soup with cheddar cheese, dill, and broccoli. Vegetables are underrepresented in a lot of menus, and I do think that from a political standpoint of view, like having a more balanced diet where we are able to eat more vegetables is the future, is where we need to be heading. You can eat mainly vegetables, and you can be full on vegetables, and vegetables can be interesting and tasty. I also just like the idea of serving very peasant vegetables, you know, instead of like trying to go for like the traditional sense of luxury that people have. So it's just very simplistic, like pumpkin and butternut squash soup.
Seasonal.
Very, I mean, that's what we do. So
This is perfect.
very classical too. I mean, there's nothing fancy about it, of course.
It is. It's absolutely fancy, but simple at the same time. But fancy and rich. I love this.
We're really trying to bring food from that high-end spectrum and make it available to people that we grew up with and our friends and our family by paying the same amount of attention and detail to an ingredient that you would see at one of those restaurants that you can't afford, and bringing out the flavor in it and sharing it with everyone. The dish that we're making tonight is it's a light sort of saffron broth with bay scallops and shellfish, clams, mussels, oyster, liqueur.
This is awesome. I love this.
Big fan.
Woo!
So we are making tres leches cake, which is sort of a Mexican classic. Our version, it's a sponge cake that's been soaked in sheep's milk. And then there's also a sour orange ice and raw goat's milk ice cream. It's going to be topped with some of these dainty little milk twirls that I'm making right now. So we make it by taking goat's milk, thickening it with gel and gum, spreading that on acetate, dehydrating it, and then we pop it into a hot oven. It becomes pliable for a second, so you can sort of manipulate it into sort of a beautiful curvy shape, and then it gets crispy. I own 3 Mexican restaurants here in Manhattan, so obviously I wanted to do something within a Mexican style. Desserts are always my favorite. I have a background as a pastry chef, so I don't know, any chance to get to make them is fun for me. The similarities between pastry and the taco, I don't think it's fair just to encapsulate it in the taco, but you can start to talk about the most important and fundamental ingredient in Mexican cooking, which is masa. That's that corn dough that's used to make tortillas, tamales, basically all the different antojito shapes. So when you think about it as a dough, in a lot of ways you can begin to think about it as pastry. I mean, even though it isn't, for me, it's very similar.
Thank you.
Oh, snap. It's amazing. Oh, whoa. There's another texture I didn't even get to.
Like when you're very young, you look at everything and you embrace it all. You kind of start to realize as you get a bit older, the definition of a genius is someone who can do two things well. Most people are lucky if they can do one thing well. I'll be lucky if I get to that point someday. But to break away from Mexican cooking and start focusing on other people and what they're making, that would be really exciting.
It's a very interesting time and a beautiful time to be a chef, you know, like, because we do have a spotlight, and not just because of like the leather wearing, like motorcycle, you know, driving, like rock star chef, but because we actually can make a difference. You know, we can actually make a difference every single day that we wake up and we decide to cook food.